Hello, friends. I'm Kush Khandelwal, and this is Ageless Athlete. A few years ago, I started asking questions that would not leave me alone. Why do some people keep pushing mentally, physically, spiritually long after others burn out or break down? What does it really mean to age well when you still crave movement, meaning, and mastery? This show is my search for answers. Each week, I talk to elite athletes, everyday adventurers, and pioneering researchers who are stretching the limits of what's possible across age, injury, illness, and self doubt. You will hear hard won lessons, untold stories, and science backed strategies for building a body and mindset that lasts. For those of us joining for the first time, welcome to the show. For the rest, thank you for joining us again. Time is our most valuable asset, and I deeply appreciate you giving me your time today.
Imagine it's dawn in Santa Cruz, California. The streets are still quiet, the ocean just starting to light up, and a lone figure carves across a stretch of asphalt. Cones lined up like a whisper of rhythm. This is Judi Oyama's world. She's been here since 1973, when she first stepped on a board as a 13-year-old girl in a sport that didn't yet have space for her. Back then, there were no women's divisions, no equal prize money, and no Instagram to amplify her feats. She skated anyway, often the only girl, often the only Asian American, and often unwelcome. Her name was misspelled or left off competition results. Media crews left to go to lunch during her finals. She stayed. She kept racing and she kept winning. Now at 65, Judy is still competing at the highest levels of slalom skateboarding, racing down steep courses at 25 to 30 miles per hour, weaving through cones with the precision of a downhill skier. She trains alongside teens, beats them more often than they expect, and mentors the next generation to ensure the sport's future. In this conversation, Judy takes us inside the journey, how her family's history in World War II Japanese American incarceration camps shaped her drive and her sense of freedom. What it's really like to be the oldest racer at the starting line, and why she thrives there. The overlooked beauty and technical artistry of slalom skating, and how she's managed injuries, arthritis, and life's demands to keep performing into her 60s. The longevity toolkit that fuels her, CrossFit, smart nutrition, sleep, recovery, and mental game. Stay to the end and you will hear Judy's philosophy on aging identity and what it means to be badass every day. Whether you have ever stepped on a skateboard or not, this episode is about defying these limits others try to place on you and replacing them with your own. I typically start with this question, Judy, which is where are you right now and what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I'm in Santa Cruz, California at my work office at Lens Arts. I do all their marketing. And for breakfast, I had coffee I put cinnamon chocolate and some Laird's powder in, some of his coconut powder. And I had some quiche and part of a peach, fresh peach.
That's a delicious sounding breakfast. And I'm particularly impressed with your coffee game.
Yeah, I like my coffee. Actually, I have coffee before I go to my 6 o'clock CrossFit class. And then I eat when I get back.
Wow. I guess the caffeine in the coffee helps get you going with the CrossFit intensity that bright and early.
Yeah, I prefer I get up early and I prefer to get my workout in so I get it done for the day and it always kind of starts my day off right.
Beautiful. When we were just chatting before we started recording, you mentioned it's already been a heck of a week. And yes, it is only Tuesday. So, what is going on in your world right now?
Well, I caregive for my dad. He's in a facility and he had a fall on Friday and he hit his face on the corner bench of tile in the shower. So I've been constantly going and checking on him and he's doing well. And then my car started having some loud noises. So I had to take it in this morning at 8 because I didn't want to keep driving. So and then I had a couple bags of rocks that I needed for an art project here. And I was like, I'm not carrying those rocks right now, but I'm going to go back and someone's going to give me a ride because of luckily the auto place is like a block and a half away. So that's my day.
Super. Got it. Got it. And Judi, I can see that you are juggling many identities. You have a career that you work hard at. You are caregiving for your father, and you have a family. And then you are also a slalom skateboarding professional, a world champion. So I thought maybe we could just start with that. I would love your help in helping us and listeners understand the sport that you have mastered. A lot of us have seen skateboarding on television, even if we haven't skateboarded ourselves. And skateboarding was recently inducted in the Olympics. What is slalom skating, though, and how does it work?
So slalom skateboarding has actually been around since the 70s, and it's racing on a skateboard. And usually it's going off a ramp and you're racing against another competitor and you're going down the hill as fast as you can in and out of skateboard cones. It's kind of like snow skiing with the gates. And the first one down the hill that crosses the finish line is the winner. And it's gotten to be a bigger international sport. And actually, slalom, downhill, luge, and vert riding has gotten into the World Skate Games, which is the step before getting in the Olympics. And so Park and Street went to the World Skate Games for a couple seasons, and they got in. And I guess I was hoping that vert would get in because vert is such a small amount of space needed for it's just a big ramp. Like they just had the vert alert in Utah last weekend. The hope is that slalom will get into the Olympics in maybe 8 to 10 years or 8 years. And my goal has been to keep the sport going and trying to get the next generation of slalom racers started. So by the time it gets in the Olympics, they'll be in their 20s. And one of the young women, Leola, is 16, and she's a U.S. national champ. And I've been coaching with her, and I also call and talk to Maggie, who lives in Texas, who's 14. And I just am enjoying seeing them love the sport. And they also ride vert and are very versatile. And I feel like I can show them the steps it takes to be a professional, and I'm connecting them with some of my sponsors so that as I kind of step out, they can take my spot is kind of my goal.
Amazing. Judi, you are competing at the highest levels yourself, and you're also mentoring and supporting the next generation of crushers. It might actually help. Could you behoove us for a second and maybe go a step even further back? I heard you talk about like vert, which sounds like it stands for vertical. So maybe what are the different types of popular skateboarding today? Maybe a very quick primer.
There's different disciplines of skateboarding, and in Olympics they have street, which is the riding on the rails, riding on stairs, and kind of doing jump moves that are obstacles that you would see on a street. And then there's park, which is more like a concrete swimming pool and half pipes, and they have rails in them now, and they're very specific to riding in a bowl and doing tricks. And then there's the next level is vertical, which is half pipe and vertical. So I want to say the ramps could be 12 feet, 13 feet, and maybe the last 2 to 3 feet are vertical. And they usually start with a launch ramp. And Tony Hawk just had his Vert Alert in Utah, and X Games always has vert, and then slalom is racing down the hill. There's a giant slalom race, which is a single lane course on a big hill, and you're going 25, 30 miles an hour. And then there's hybrid, which is dual slalom, but it's a technical course, and the cones are close, 6, 7 feet to like 9 to 12 feet, and they're offset. So you're actually reaching for cones, and they're long courses. And then they have a tight slalom, which is anywhere from 60 to 75 cones, and they're usually spaced at 6 feet to 7 feet, and it's very technical. And then there's downhill, which I was one of the first women doing downhill back in the 80s. And that is going down a hill that's windy. And now they have it where there's groups of 4 people that ride as fast as they can from point A, the top, and they push start to the bottom, and they draft each other, they pass each other, and they're going at speeds that are far beyond what we were doing when we were racing, because now it's gone to the next level, and it's very international. There's a lot of downhill in all different countries. And then there's luge, which you're laying on a whole different board setup, and it's low to the ground, and you're laying on your back. And so those are some of the other disciplines of skateboarding. And then the other one that isn't on the radar, but it's been around forever, is freestyle. And that's where you ride a really small board, and you're doing little tricks on a flat ground. And you could do all kinds of kickflips, handstands, and it's very fun to watch. It's very technical.
Wow, Judi, thank you so much. My mind is a little blown. I had no idea that skateboarding had all these different exciting subgenres. What type of skating do you specialize in again? And maybe what is it about slalom skateboarding that is so addictive for you?
So when I first started skating, I did pretty much everything, a little bit of freestyle, park riding when they had parks, and I did downhill, and I had to kind of fight my way in because the first downhill race, I was the only woman in our town that raced, and I got in the middle of the pack. I think I placed like 8th. And then the next year they had a women's division. It was called the Capitola Classic, and I got 2nd. And the next year they made it invite only, and they didn't invite me. And I called the promoter and I said, well, I've raced it twice. This is 3rd year. And he said, well, it doesn't look as gnarly when a chick can go down the hill. And so I got uninvited, and they let me help sign the men in and stuff, and I watched, and it's funny because I could see myself on an old video and I look really sad. But and then I rode parks, and I was one of a few women, Cindy Whitehead and Vicky Vickers, that competed in women's vert. But unfortunately, when they talk about vert now, they talk about women from the 80s on. They don't give any recognition to a lot of us early skateboarders. So I'm glad I get to mention a few names and have them remember that we were skating in the 70s. And a lot of times there were contests, but there weren't women's divisions. So now it's like equal pay, equal contests, purses. And it's nice to see after going to races where I spent $125 for an entry fee and I get a VCR videotape and the guys get, yeah. So, and I didn't even mention that I
Wow.
won the race. They did all the men's winners and they didn't do the women. And I've been at races where final women's
Wow.
was filmed in Oregon. And I mean, the race was filmed in Oregon and it was really a beautiful race, a lot of media. But when they had the women's final slalom, they told the TV crew they can go to lunch. So we didn't get filmed. So it's just
Oh my
a
gosh.
constant battle. And I feel like I'm, I don't mind if people don't like me or people, say that I complain, but I've been fighting since the 70s and I still will speak out for the women because we get neglected or we get belittled and talked down to. And I'm hoping that by the time Loyola and Maggie and some of these other women, they won't have to deal with that because the young girls that are doing vert and slalom, vert and park, they don't see that because it's already had passed them where they just get to see the good part, which is great.
Wow, that is insane. Sounds like when people talk about the history of skateboarding and women's skateboarding, maybe they go back to when women were officially invited into the competitions. But you were helping pave that entry even before that in the 70s. And sounds like somehow the media conveniently continues to ignore some of those origins. The other thing you said is that, yes, you had to fight the whole way through in all kinds of uh, creative ways. But it sounds like despite equal pay and maybe the same level of competitions, the fight isn't yet over. The fight for equality in skateboarding still isn't over. There is still a gap. Can you speak a little bit about what that gap might be and why, let's say, women's skateboarding is not still being recognized?
I think one of the gaps is a lot of times it's mostly run by men, and there's nothing wrong with men, but they look after their own and they invite their own and they'll, the camera crew is probably more men. And, years ago when X Games started, they just, I think, had their 30th anniversary, but they started and they had women and their prize purse was $2,500. They were paying men $2,500 just to show up, not even have to place. And so the women actually boycott. We're going to put a boycott on. I don't remember exactly if how they got the money or whatever, but they actually stopped the women for 10 years. So I think this last year was the first time, or the year before, they had women because they just kind of shut them out. And media doesn't talk about that.
It's been quite a journey for you as one of the early pioneers. So rewinding back a little bit, you started skating in the early 70s, and like you pointed, skate culture and even the world looked so different back then. So what drew you into the sport as a teenager? What lit the spark?
What drew me in was the challenge. Like I'd see surfer guys around Pleasure Point and Santa Cruz skateboarding. And my brother built a board and I tried it out on our driveway. And it was 73. I was 13. And I just liked the challenge. And I liked that you could go out by yourself and ride anytime you wanted. And that you could just see yourself improve. Like, you could ride 10 feet, you could ride. And I had no idea that I'd be skateboarding still. I actually just got my Guinness World Record certificate yesterday for longest skateboard competitive career. And took 7 months after the World Skate Games in Italy for all the paperwork and all the approvals, because you have to send them videos and certificates from people or forms that they watched you and that they're part of the industry. And I'm super grateful to have good friends and people that filled out the paperwork and helped me get it, because I just thought, I'm doing it this long, it'd be fun to at least document it so it won't be forgotten and it'll give someone else a goal.
I've been thinking a lot about energy, not just in training, but in recovery, in focus, in how we age. So when I came across NutriSense, it hit home. It's a program that pairs a 24/7 glucose biosensor with a dedicated dietitian to help you understand how your body responds to food, stress, sleep, and movement, and then act on the data. I chose it because I wanted something real, not another hack or one size fits all plan, just honest insight into what's actually going on inside me and how to build habits that last. NutriSense has helped over 150,000 people take that step. And if you want to try it, you can get 33% off your first month with code Ageless15 at nutrisense.io. Again, that's nutrisense.io, code Ageless15. You can also find this information on the show notes for this episode. Congratulations. Another, I guess, feather in your cap, and one that will continue inspiring people for a long time. That kind of longevity in not just in skateboarding, but in any sport, Judi. That is so impressive. You talked about how you got introduced because your brother helped shape a board for you. But at the same time, it was still so challenging to make headway into the sport when even such fundamental things like just maybe, like you said, like just the simple indignity of not having your name be pronounced or spelled correctly. I come from India, and I also have a different name, and it's always weird, when people cannot say your name. But you were competing, and people, yeah. What did that invisibility feel like back then? And do you think it actually like fed your drive?
Well, I know that it fed my drive, because the more people kind of counted me out, or like I remember going to having teammates when I rode for Santa Cruz, and we were supposed to go to a contest, and they told me to meet at a certain time at their house, and they took off 10 minutes before I got there, and I had my dad drive me all the way up to the contest, and which was like an hour away. And so, I was used to being left out. And so I just felt like in my mind, it was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And then I just kept skating. And I feel like I always got compared to Peggy Oki, who was really sweet on the Dogtown Z Boys. But I still get, even in my own town, hey, you're Peggy Oki or whatever. So I'm trying to just prove that there's more than one Asian American skateboarder and girl skateboarders, women skateboarders that are unknown, because if you didn't get in the magazine, no one knew you. And now, because of social media, you can be found and get I feel like when I'm powering out and kind of proving to people that you can make a difference and be seen. And I think because of my age, I've gotten a lot of people that are into mountain biking and swimming or other sports that say, you got me off the couch, or you made me realize that at 40, I'm not done. And so that's the other part, is I hope I'm inspiring more people to just do something, do what they love, and don't let the age thing stop you. Because people always aren't you worried if you're going to fall? But, I've fallen doing other dumb things, tripping on stuff. And at least, I luckily have the muscle and bones from lifting that's going to help me be able to fall and just get back up. Like falling, it shouldn't be like a death sentence.
I want to bring in something deeper here. Your family, as Japanese Americans, from what I know, lived through the trauma of World War II incarceration camps. So, how did that history maybe even shape your perspective growing up? I mean, this is 1960s, 1970s Santa Cruz, very white. You stood out just by the virtue of who you were. So, tell us how it shaped your approach to sports and your identity.
Well, I know one of the things my parents are like born in Monterey and Gardena, and they were all interned and sent to the horse stalls in Salinas, or they had like a what do they call it, assembly center at the different horse tracks in Northern California and LA, in Anaheim, Santa Ana racetrack. And I know that as much as they tried to just spoil us because they didn't have a lot, it made me really appreciate just having the freedom to go do whatever I wanted. And I didn't take it for granted that I could go skateboard or go horseback ride or whatever, because I knew that they went through a time where they just lost everything and that they had to build back up. And my dad was fortunate enough that my grandfather was a fisherman, and actually his boat is in the Cannery Row history books. And my parents, or my dad's side of the family, they had a house in Monterey. He lost his boat, but some family in Berkeley rented out my dad's house. And when they came back from internment camp, their house was still there, and there was soldiers from Fort Ord living in there. And so they shared the house for 6 months, where the soldiers lived upstairs and the family lived downstairs. And they were able to keep their home. Yeah,
Wow.
it was really fortunate. And that's like, my uncle did help produce a movie called Beyond Barbed Wire. And it was about the 442nd Troop. And I had two uncles in that. And so while their family was in internment camp, they were actually fighting for the U.S. Army. And so basically, I just feel very fortunate. And I think my parents kind of never had any, they weren't like bitter about it, like they just felt like, it was a time that changed their life, but they were able to move on. And my dad's 96. He's still alive. He was, I think, 13 when he was in camp. And I can't tell. I wouldn't tell. I would think he would understand. And he would be really disappointed that we're at that state again, where it's scary that they're just grabbing people off the street.
That is, yeah, no, sorry, that is such a uncanny observation that your dad has, right? Like, your family lived through that period when they were taken away for no fault of their own. And now we have families in California and all over the world, all over the country, who are also facing this constant nightmare. Your childhood was anything but typical. And did skating or picking that sport up, did it feel like maybe some kind of like quiet defiance, a way where you could just be yourself amidst all of the other chaos that must have been part of growing up in that era?
I think a little bit, yes, because I guess what's fun about skateboarding, and I still, it's a little bit of renegade sport. Like, you're not really welcome, but you just do it, and you're kind of like looking around and making sure, like, okay, I'm on this street. Am I going to get kicked out? Or, I mean, I've had and when I was a kid, I had a neighbor run my cones down with their car. And then the wife came down the street, and I'm like, you don't need to do that. Your husband did that. So, I mean, I've had other people, I skated at lunch at one place, and I had some guy come down the street and just run them all over. And I stopped him and started yelling at him, and he apologized. Like, I got in his face about it because, one, he could have hit me. Two, why is he doing that? And so skateboarding is like, sometimes you have to sneak into a spot and you just try to not leave any marks and just go. And I mean, I still will jump fences or squeeze in between fences to go ride. If I go to the skate park too early and the gate's not open, I mean, who thought a 60-something-year-old would be climbing over the fence? But, I was a kid and I did it. And I feel like, I'm just riding a little earlier than I'm supposed to. So I think that it's just part of, one, being independent, and two, just knowing that, as long as you're not hurting anyone or any property, you should be able to skate. And I have a funny story that one time we were skating in San Jose, and they were having a criterium bike race and on this road. So we were like, okay, well, we can't skate here. So we went to this parking lot in an industrial complex, and we set up cones, and, we're older. We always wear safety gear. And this Mercedes comes jamming up through the parking lot and over to us and said, skateboarders aren't allowed here. And I said, okay, well, if we see any skateboarders, we'll let them know. And he looked at me, and he looked at all of us, like being a little older and wearing safety gear. He goes, oh, you guys look all right. Okay, well, and he just laughed, and he said, I own this property, and I saw you guys, and I just thought I should kick you out, but you guys can stay. And I always laugh. My friends still laugh about that.
That is a cool story indeed, because people sometimes make assumptions about a sport or any other kind of counterculture activity, and they don't make contact with the actual humans. And when they do that, like, I know that as a rock climber, people think, climbers are like some kind of crazy daredevils. But when, my parents actually meet my friends and other climbers, they're like, oh, these are normal people with normal lives, who are thoughtful and educated. So I think just being able to meet in person can help sometimes at least change some stereotypes. Judi, at what point did you realize after picking up skateboarding that you had this natural gift, that you were that good, and it is something that you wanted to invest in?
When I was 16 and I was able to get on the Santa Cruz skateboard team, and I got sponsored by Independent, I realized, well, I might be good enough to, be a pro. And then it kind of pushed me forward to keep skating. And Santa Cruz, Richard Novak, he's the founder, and there was Jay Sherman as well, but he actually passed away when he was in his 40s from leukemia. But he has sponsored me since I was 16. Like, if I need a board, I need wheels, I can just let him know and I can grab stuff. And just having someone behind you that's always backed you and supported you and didn't say, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be. He's always been there. And my husband, who used to skate, and actually we used to take all the kids skating, he's a bike racer and bike rider, and he has always supported me. Like, I felt like if I had people saying you shouldn't do it, you're getting too old, I probably would have quit. But since I've had really good friends and people just say, hey, yeah, keep doing it, it's cool, makes you happy. So I think that's been a big part of why I continued, and that's helped me bridge the gap or whatever, because I actually got kind of out of slalom because it had stopped for a little bit. There wasn't races, but I still skated. I want to say I was like in the early 40s, started skating again. And one of the women that was skating with me says, when we're in our 60s skating, and I looked at her and like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to be skating, Like, I thought that was like some foreign thing she was saying. And now being 65 and skating and racing. And then, I have friends that are in their 70s that still race and skate. And some of them I skated with since I was a teenager. And they skate more than I skate. So, I mean, there's other people out there that maybe aren't getting the limelight or don't do a lot of social media. But I have people in my life that are my age or older that skate. Like I have a friend, Gary Hull, who's probably skated every day for 3 years. He actually is a good friend of Andrew Huberman. He is also someone that I really appreciate in my life.
At some point, you stepped away from skateboarding. It seems like that from, I guess, an outsider's view. And then it sounds like you came back with force in your later years. Is there some sort of story behind that beyond maybe family, career, and other obligations? Friends, it means a lot that you're here. I pour a ton of heart into the show. The research, the interviews, the editing, it's all me, trying to share stories that matter. If Ageless Athlete has ever made you feel seen, inspired you, or just kept you company on a long drive, or better, over a run or a bike ride, I would be so grateful if you considered supporting it. Even a small amount helps keep it going, helps keep bringing the show to you for free. You can chip in at buymeacoffee.com/agelessathlete. Again, buymeacoffee.com/agelessathlete. You can find the link on the show notes as well. Thank you for listening and for being part of this.
I continued to skateboard since I was 13, but for a little bit because there was like I want to say, there was a time where there was a ton of skate parks. Like actually, San Jose had 8 skate parks, and with it, and this is late 80s. Late 80s. They basically in 6 months all closed because of insurance. So insurance got to be really expensive. So all throughout the country, skate parks are just closing. So people went from having multiple skate parks to having none or barely any, no big ones. And then they went to street. So that's where street skateboarding started picking up. And then they went to vert because people would build ramps in their backyard. So there was like this weird transition period. And so I would skate, but I wouldn't compete in slalom because there weren't races. But I still would skate. And then I want to say in like 2001, there was like a resurgence of this FCR series, Fast City Racing series, that started contests up again. And a friend of mine that I used to ride with, Steve Olson, had called me up and said, "You need to get back on slalom and skating." I'm like, what? Like I had no idea that, racing would start again. So I started searching the internet and I found Henry Hester, who was a world champion and rode for Santa Cruz, and a couple other people. And Henry sent me a board, and other people I knew were practicing. I would go find them and practice in parking lots, and I could barely make it around the cones. And then I went to a first race in San Francisco, Battle of the Bay, and I actually won the second day. And I was thinking, I'm just going to try one race. Well, it's been like 2025, and I figure it's been fun for me, challenging. I had no idea I'd be going faster and racing still and travel. Like I'd never gone out internationally to a skateboard contest until 2022 when I went to the Argentina. And I actually, when I went, I was thinking, okay, you're going to get your butt kicked and just get, this is going to be it and just wrap it up. And the first day was a hybrid and I came in third. And I was just like, wow, I guess I have some potential. And then I placed fourth overall. And then like I kept skating, and then I met Leola in 2023 or 24, and I got her interested in it. And then I was like, oh, I'll just train with her for, another year. And then we both made the team, and then we went to Italy, and there was another World Skate Games. I think I came in 14th overall. And then I got on the USA slalom team for this year, and Leola didn't, but she has a great opportunity too, because they'll have World Skate Games in Paraguay in 2026. So I'm hoping to help her get on the team and get to Paraguay. I tried to give my spot at both at Tina and this year, but you can't give your spot to somebody. And then I was going to quit skating so I wouldn't keep the points or quit racing. And Callie, Leola's mom, goes, don't just quit, and give her a goal, because she's young. And so I figured, all right, well, I'll see how it goes this year. I have a U.S. Nationals is in Colorado, August 14th or 16th, 7th, no, 15th, 16th, 17th in Westminster, Colorado. And so we'll see how it goes there, because she'll be able to get more points. And if she goes to Worlds in Brazil in November, she could possibly make the 2026 team and get to go to the World Skate Games.
And Judy, just so I am clear, when you're competing at these levels, you're not competing in a special category for, let's say, masters, right? You're competing in the same category as all the other mainstream competitors.
Yes, in both men and women's, there's only one category. So like in Argentina, I was racing 17-year-olds, 14-year-olds. I was 63. And in Italy, I was 64. And so I think it's more of an entertainment for people to see that I'm still doing it. And for me, it's like a challenge, and I'm still having fun. It's an adrenaline rush. And I think that's kind of one of the things that keeps me going is I like the thrill. I'm not so into the giant slalom, and that like they've had some really big ramps. They've had like a 12-foot ramp at Texas for a start ramp, and I actually crashed the first time I tried it, and then the second time I had to do it. I actually ripped my shorts and I had to go change them because I landed and slid on part of my pants. And I was like, if I don't at least drop in on this ramp, it's going to haunt me the rest of my life. I don't know why I think that way, but I've done 10-foot and was fine, 9-foot. But this 12-foot was like a monster. And so at least I know
Wow.
I did it, and I can get that checked off my bucket list.
Judy, this is insane. Like, you are in your 60s, you're competing in the same events as people who could, I guess, be your grandkids. I mean, you are kind of well known now, but I can only imagine maybe the shock on people's faces when they realize that you're on the same like starting line in the same cohort of athletes who are so much younger than you are.
Yeah, I have a funny story. When we were in Argentina at the airport, we ran into some other women racers, and I was with two of the other U.S. slalom racers, and they all introduced each other and shook hands. And then I went to put my hand out, and they turned around and walked away. And one of my teammates goes, I can't believe they just did that to you. You should say something. And I said, they'll know who I am once we get on the hill. And I ended up beating them both, and since then they probably could beat me, but I felt like I had no need to try to tell them who I was, because of course I don't look like I'm a racer.
Hello, friends. Just a quick break. This is not an ad. If you have been enjoying these conversations, I would love for you to subscribe to my newsletter. It is where I go deeper, sharing stories, reflections, and behind the scenes insights that don't always make it into the podcast. I write about what I'm learning from elite athletes and how to stay ageless in body and mind. If you have ever wanted a thoughtful, inspiring read that ties it all together, training, aging, mindset, and awe. You will love this. You can find the link in the show notes or just head to agelessathlete.co. Again, www.agelessathlete.co, that is, to sign up. And yeah, just a couple of emails a month, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Absolutely no spam ever. Okay, back to the show.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, it sounds like that's kind of been a bit of a theme through your life where you were this underdog. Nobody expected, this Japanese American girl from Santa Cruz to be this, world beating skateboarder. And then you've come over and over and surprise people. And you also said that, when you got back into racing again, you didn't think you would be doing this, let's say 2 decades and plus later. So, what has been the secret, Judy? How have you been able to continue doing this and also excelling for all these decades?
Well, one of the things that's really helped me, because I used to get really tired at the events. Like I learned a lot of things about nutrition, sleep, exercise. Like one race, I was doing no carbohydrates, eating nuts and drinking fluids, and I actually bonked on a race. Like I totally had no energy. And I've had races where I could just feel I had no blood in my thighs towards the end of a race and kept hitting cones. So I've learned a lot about, I guess, forced how to eat better. And I also, at 53, got into CrossFit, which I want to say when I first started, the first day, I remember they had you hang from a bar, and I could only hang with my hands for 11 seconds. And now I could do 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So the grip strength was really important. And just being able to keep fit has really helped me. So since I'm older and these girls are so much younger and more fit and have the youth on their side, I feel like I have to work out twice as hard and keep in better shape. And it's more for myself to be able to start the morning and warm up. We do qualifying, practice, then you sit around for a while, the men race, and then they have semifinals, and you only get to warm up like one run, and then you have finals. And then at the finals, you actually have to race a bunch in a row. So you're go down, you're exerting energy, and then you're either walking back up the hill or maybe getting pulled by a motorcycle or car, which, is kind of dangerous. But so I've learned that, really regulating diet and stamina and conditioning is really key.
Amazing. Yeah, much to unpack here. I would love to learn a little bit more about different things you've learned that we can all be inspired by and maybe incorporate into our lives as we get older and want to keep performing at a high level or a level that is appropriate for us. So maybe just starting with diet, you talked about you took on this particular diet and it did not work out for you. So what have you learned since then, and what type of diet do you allows you today to perform optimally?
Well, one is it's really important to have carbohydrates, to burn. I try to, I really am careful about alcohol in my life, especially not that I don't drink a glass of wine or drink, but like before a race for a good month, I won't drink any alcohol. And I really try to reduce my sugar intake, but I'll eat fruits. being older, it's like it's harder to lose the weight, even though I'm like eating the same as I did when I was younger. I just still have to really watch what I eat. Try to eat organic. I try to eat really healthy. I don't eat fast food. What else? I drink a lot of water, and I've been lucky enough to find this brand called, and I'm not advertising, they don't pay me, but Momentous, that has a really good clean protein powder and creatine, and their stuff's so clean that the Olympic athletes can use it. So it's really, and I feel like I want to make sure that what I put in my body is, healthy. But I just think it's really important to plan out when you're going on an event, like bring the nuts, bring the powders, when you go to the store, go get fruit, get, the stuff that's a little bit more healthy for you. Because when you get to a race or an event, it's really easy to rely on what's there. And, sometimes, you train for months and months and months, and then you get there and there's like no food or whatever. And then you just don't have the energy. So I've learned to bring what I need that helps me through and makes me feel better.
For sure. And you realize that carbohydrates are important. And do you actually watch your intake of the different type of nutrition groups? Do you try to get a certain amount of carbs, certain amounts of protein, or are you more about like, hey, as long as I eat clean and I bring essential foods with me to competition, that looks after itself?
Yes, I'm not as picky. Like I've gone through phases, like where I've counted everything. One of the things I like is the 800-gram challenge. I don't know if you ever heard of that, where you eat 800 grams of fruits and vegetables, and that always makes me feel better. But it's just harder to do because you really have to prep your food and make sure you have a lot of dark greens and whatnot. And so I try to just do the basic foods that I like and that are easy, accessible, from like hard-boiled eggs and grapes and nuts are a really good thing to bring to a race. And then I do bring, the different powders, and I have it in my water bottle. Besides just water, sometimes I'll make sure I actually put creatine in there, and I'll put Element, which has got a lot of electrolytes. But I only use like a third of their pack because I don't like it real sweet. But and then it's fun because other racers ask me what I'm using, and I'll share some of the stuff, and then I get them involved. Anywhere from downhill racer that has been winning all these races. I met him at a slalom race. He's from the U.S., San Diego, and he isn't on the U.S. team because they already had a full team. He's on the French team, and he's won like 4 world races. Anyway, so I just feel like if I can encourage and motivate some of these younger athletes, and they ask me what I'm doing and they try it and that works for them, it's kind of been fun to see them excel. So I'm happy to share my information.
And Judi, over the decades, we all can have our run-ins with injuries and maybe other situations where our body doesn't perform as well as we would like. Have you had to battle with injuries or other kind of setbacks through this long career?
When I was young, 19, I actually, doing a frontside air at a skate park, I dislocated and broke my ankle and had a cast all the way up my thigh. And that was like my biggest injury as far as skating. I've had some falls where I was skating and I slipped out on sand and hit my face and got rocks in my chin. And I actually ran into a dermatologist who's asked me, what did you do? And he said, well, we do this tattoo removal program, but you have to do volunteer work. And he says it gets rid of scars. And I actually had volunteered, did horse patrol for Año Nuevo State Park. And so I had one of the rangers wrote me a letter, and so I got to do it. But the funny part was going to this tattoo removal. There was all these gangbangers and girls with their parent mom getting tattoos off, and I came out with this big red bloody chin, and they're probably like, "What? She had a tattoo on her chin?" But yeah, I actually fell about 6 months ago, tripped on something in our backyard, did a full yard sale carrying a skateboard and stuff because I couldn't see that there was some round plastic balls on the concrete, and I just slipped and rolled my ankle, and it actually still bugs me, but it's gotten better, and I've been doing some physical therapy and just being more careful and taping it up, and it seems to be healing. But it's funny to have an injury that was just not skateboard related.
That is, that is kind of hilarious. And that story about the, I guess the chin work that you had done and how people misunderstood that as something else. What about maybe some of the other things like sleep, for example?
I go to bed. My husband laughs at me. I go to bed pretty early, 8:39. And I do like some breathing exercises that I've learned to just fall. And I fall asleep really easy, which I feel very fortunate. But one of the things that I'm doing that's new and different is for racing, because so the next race is in Colorado at 5,000 elevation. And I've raced in Breckenridge at 10,000, and you really have to acclimate yourself. And but I have had this Ricardo, this coach says apnea. He does underwater workouts with weights in the swimming pool. And he works with surfers and NFL athletes or whatever to learn breath. And I just went last Thursday and did an indoor class. So it's more like with yoga mats and stuff. And he showed us some breathing techniques that will help you recover and help you with the thin altitude. So I feel like, okay, I'm older. I have to compete against a bunch of young people. What can I do that's next level to help myself? And so I'm actually working with Loyola and some of the other racers that are NorCal. Like, do you guys want to learn what I'm learning, or do you want to come to a class? And what it is about, breathing, bringing in more oxygen, using your stomach muscles. He has really helped me, like for lifting weights, and I'm hoping because of the altitude and that we're only going to be there like 3 days or 4 days early, that I can learn these techniques so that when we're competing, I can get enough air.
For sure. And like sleep, for example, do you sleep early? Do you make sure, but you also wake up early because, for example, today you had CrossFit. Do you swear by getting a certain number of hours as an athlete?
I want to say I usually get like 7 hours. Like I'd like to get more, but I wait. I go to bed early and I get up early. I get up usually at 4:30.
Right on. Yeah, and then after that, you have the day that starts pretty soon after. Obviously, you're a different person now, Judi, than you were at 15 or maybe even 25. And of course, in some ways, our bodies have changed. But are there some ways in which you think you actually have some special abilities because of your experience or something else that allows you to continue succeeding today, despite the competition being so much younger, despite you being a different person?
I want to say half, a lot of it is mental, I mean, it's important to be physical, but I think because I have practiced a lot and I just feel more comfortable with myself, that I trust myself. And if I don't feel comfortable, then I won't do something. Like if it's a super gnarly hill and I don't feel like it's safe at the bottom, because half the battle of slalom racing is racing the hill. The other half that people don't realize is stopping at the bottom, because sometimes you have to stop by putting your foot down. And that is mental. Like you're 2/3 the way down the hill, but you're trying to finish the race. But then you're thinking about, how do I stop without crashing? or sometimes it's a race through and then you have to turn and you try to communicate, like if it's another road with the other racer going, I'm going to go left. And if they, you want to make sure you don't cross up at the bottom. I just think that I'm more fit now than I was in my 30s. And I want to tell people, like, you should start. I really believe in Olympic lifting, like lifting heavy weights. I don't think people realize how important that is. Because I feel, even though I look in the mirror and go, God, I look so fucking old, but I feel good. I feel physically good. And yeah, I'm older. I have wrinkles and gray hair, but I just think it's so important to keep your body fit.
I have to agree. Absolutely. I mean, we have to make up for all the muscle that we're losing every year as we get older, and not just for performance, but also for life. We need to keep that muscle with us. Judi, you have become this role model, maybe this unexpected role model for aging athletes and late bloomers. What would you say to someone who's in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or even later, and who's wondering if it's too late to start?
It's not too, I mean, I feel like if I could start at 53 years old, and I've talked to other people that started even later, and there's some coaches that work only with older athletes, like 70, 80-year-olds. I want to say it's a lifesaver to, really build on your, at any age, just build your body up, because it's like I see people that are younger that just like have a hard time and are complaining about going upstairs and stuff. And I like, if you, I mean, if you go to the mall or go wherever, like you see escalator, you see stairs, take the stairs, like I'll take the stairs even with my luggage or a backpack. And there's like 2 people on the stairs and 30 people on the escalator. And I just feel like, people need to just use their bodies while they have them, use them.
When we were kids, our dad insisted or forced us to take the stairs instead of the elevators again. And I feel like for me now, it's so hard to get on the elevators because of that early lesson that the stairs were always healthier. Just maybe a couple of final questions before we end this chat. And I like to ask this question to everybody, which is, what does being ageless mean to you?
What does ages mean to me? I think age is not a number. Like, I think people can't go off the number that their age is. And that's why I felt like ageless means, it's not about your age. It's about what you can do and how you keep doing what you love, because I see a lot of different athletes and you post different people, and it's really cool to see that just because you're older doesn't mean that you have to stop. And I think it's an important message that, keep doing it. And it might change, like I don't see myself doing pickleball, but I do, like I used to have ridden horses, I've had horses. And I think it'd be a nice transition to ride horses, because I actually went riding on a moonlight ride on Nuevo with the McCrary's and a bunch of people. And the one lady was 84 years old, Bernice. And we were like on the beach, trotting, cantering, and then a full gallop in the dark. And she was with us. And I was like, I want to be that person, and it really made me realize that, you could be in your 80s and still doing cool stuff and what you love. And she outlived a ton of horses. She had a wall in her house that had all these pictures of horses that she outlived. And she lived up on Nuevo. And if any highway patrol or ranger saw her on the side of the road, because she kind of had bad vision, waiting to cross, they would stop and help her across the road. And she rode way late into life. And I just think that is hopefully the goal. And if I can encourage 30 and 40 or 50-year-olds that don't stop, then I'm happy. That's what I'm hoping. Besides enjoying it myself, I hope I am inspiring someone that's younger that can't use the excuse I'm too old.
Badass. Another thing I think I'm gleaning from you is that one can also be strategic and plan ahead and plan for maybe that next activity one might want to take up. Once, let's say in your case, you stop or you slow down on skateboarding at some point, though it doesn't look like you're going to slow down anytime soon. It could be, hey, let's me begin this other activity. And I think maybe that just helps us stay excited about the chance to learn something new and get into something else that's just equally as fulfilling. Judi, do you think your best years are ahead of you or behind you?
I think the years ahead are just different. They may not be the best as far as I may not be going faster, but just the fact that I can still do it is good enough for me.
Fair enough. One quick question I wanted to ask you earlier, I didn't get to, was we was talking about diet, and you're talking about some supplements you take for performance. Talked about creatine, talked about electrolytes. Are there any other supplements or micronutrients you take? Do you get a blood panel done? Do you make sure that you have all those other vitamins and minerals that your body needs?
I do take omega-3s and vitamin Bs and different vitamins. Try different things that I know are important for our aging body. But I don't take any prescriptions. I don't, once in a while I take aspirin, but I do not have a prescription. I'm not on any medications. And I hope to keep it that way.
Beautiful. And then, just final question, Judi. If you had a chance to come up with a short life motto or a slogan you could put up on the highway, maybe on Coastal Highway 1 or maybe 17, what would that billboard say?
So my motto's been be badass every day.
I love it. I love it. I love it, Judi. You are one badass woman and athlete. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And keep up doing what you're doing. It's great.
That's it, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Ageless Athlete Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this show just as much as I enjoyed creating and producing it. Whether you are an athlete looking to push your limits or someone striving to maintain a healthy, active lifestyle as you age, there is always something new to learn. From Ageless Athlete, we bring you a fresh episode each and every week. If you liked what you heard, we would love it if you would take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an update. And if you really liked what you heard, please leave us a review, crush those 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. It helps us reach more people who are passionate about staying strong and resilient, no matter their age. Don't forget to visit our website and leave your email so I can send you occasional insights, stories, and tips to keep you inspired and motivated on your journey. You can also follow us on Instagram at Ageless Athlete Podcast and on YouTube at Ageless Athlete Podcast as well for even more great content. All of these links are available on the show notes for this episode. This show is entirely produced by me, Kush Khandelwal, based out of California with the help of my trusted adventure pup Roger. Until next time, keep challenging yourself. Keep pushing those limits. Stay mentally and physically fit. Continue doing what you love to do. And my friends, stay ageless. friends, this is not an ad. This is just a quick message to those amongst us who are listening to Ageless Athlete podcast for the first time. I would love it if you would hit subscribe and follow on your favorite podcast app, whether it's Apple Podcast or Spotify or Stitcher or Overcast or what have you. We bring you stories and routines and other inspiration from elites in the world of the best outdoor sports. In each episode, you will find how these athletes stay connected to the outdoors, maintain peak performance, and continue to thrive as they age. I encourage you to look through prior episodes and listen to a couple and see if they resonate. And then, come back next week. We release an episode each week. And I am really inspired to bring you some of the best stories from the world of the outdoors. Okay, back to the show.